Welcome to part 2 of Jack the Ripper with paranormalxl podcast. As always, I am your host, G.G, and with me for always is...
Mama Mary.
Yay! I always feel the need to say yay if you've ever noticed. That's
you
weird.
Do. It's cute.
Yay! Everybody clap their hands. So, okay, last week was part 1, clearly, if this is part 2.
Huh.
I'm just gonna put it right out there. We've been at this for a little bit today.
We've been busy.
We have done some other things, some other exciting things that we will put out as well. Kind of off guard, it wasn't in the schedule.
we just kind of winged it.
We did, but it was pretty intense. It was awesome. But with that being said, we are on our second bottle of champagne.
Oh.
And champagne, simply for the reason of I have it left over from the wedding, so there's like a whole bunch of it left, so it's cool.
Might as well use it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we fancied it up. There's frozen strawberries in it.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a sip to that. Ping. That's nice. All right, so let's just jump right back in. I got to get back into the...
to Ripper mode?
Yeah, the Ripper mode. Jack the Ripper mode. It's been, even the last few days, trying to put together a little more information than what I had the week before. I just get drawn into all these other directions where
there's a lot.
Easily be its own podcast all in one. It really, really could. I have a light bulb. You see it? Like for the podcast that do the seasons.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Whole season. Yeah, there's a lot.
A season, but keep going with it because you could go, each season could go into per person, and there's so many people that are involved with this. There's Jack the Ripper, whoever the hell they are, and then there's the victims, the people they thought that did it, the people that are linked to them, and so on and so forth.
And the stories, and they saw this person, they saw that person, they know this happened. There's tons.
Yes, and then people recanting their stories.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, wait, what? So let's take a moment, and we'll touch back to part 1, what we talked about just a little bit. A recap, if you will.
Well, recap it. Recap that shit.
Recap it. And I got my cap on. I love our new beanies.
I do. I like it.
And you can see them if you watch the video that we may or may not put out of this podcast. So we talked about the victims, the Conical Five.
Mm-hmm.
So first one was Mary Ann Nichols, which is a.k.a. they called her Polly Nichols as well, or Polly. I learned that from listening to another podcast. They kept referring to her as Polly, but never Mary. And I was like, who the hell? And then I researched on like 862 different websites, and then finally one I saw. They start off with calling her Mary Ann Nichols, and then all of a sudden another paragraph started out as Polly. They never explained why. So if you're listening and you know why, please tell me. I don't know. Maybe it was her street name or just a nickname.
Maybe.
But I was like, what? Because when I was listening to those other podcasts and watching the documentaries, the research on the computer and stuff, and it only came up twice. I just thought that was kind of odd. I tried to research it more, but I couldn't find any more. So just randomly Polly got put in there. Okay, but anyhow, she was found on August 31st, 1888. She was the first of the Conical Five. So, like I said, she was found on August 31st at 3:40 a.m. Charles Cross was on his way to work and noticed a dark bundle in the gateway to the left of him. And then he had noticed another man walking. He called him over. Okay. Now remember Charles Cross. Remember that name because that's going to come up in our suspects. And it's kind of a backstory to Charles Cross.
Okay.
So that'll kind of fall into place. Now he called another man over. They approached her, seeing they were like, oh my God, she was murdered and this, and this. So then the second one was Annie Chapman, found September 8th, 1888. What is my problem?
I don't know.
So Annie, she was found at 6 a.m. She was mutilated, of course, because that's kind of how this all went. She was supposed to stay at a doll's house that night. She didn't have enough money for the doll's house, so they sent her on her way until she could find some money. John Davis found her in the backyard. Third is Elizabeth Stride of September 30th. Now, with Elizabeth, remember, we referred to her as Long Liz. She was 5'5". That was extremely tall back then. She was found at 1 a.m. She was seen walking with a man, but that was kind of the last anybody, fade to scary music. Mm-hmm. And then Catherine Eddowes. She was known, as the dual event that night, because they say with Elizabeth Stride, he got sidetracked or
interrupted.
Interrupted. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. He was interrupted. So then he found Elizabeth Stride. They were found 45 minutes apart. So the time-wise there is absolutely insane, I think.
It is, because it was really close.
Super close. But the stuff that happened to Catherine was intense. Like, he would need more time than 45 minutes. I don't know. I've never murdered anybody or
maybe
taken their insides out.
Maybe he had a helper, and that was who was with him, and he decided to kill her afterwards because it was fun. Not that it is fun, but for him.
Right, the thrill. Because like we said, it wasn't the thrill that killed, though, for him. It was the thrill of the other stuff needed afterwards. Yeah, absolutely insane when you figure 45 minutes and what Eddowes' body had become.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely insane. And then there was Mary Kelly, November 9th, which is tomorrow's date.
Oh.
That one was horrific. It was in her apartment. She was found by...
was it on a neighbor guy?
No, that one was not a neighbor. She was found by her landlord. That's what I was looking for. The landlord sent his little message boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he knocked on the door. Didn't get anybody. So then he looked through the windows and saw her mutilated body. Because that's the only one of the canonical 5 that was in an enclosed location. An apartment, if you will, because that's what she was able to afford.
Yeah, and just tore up.
Yes.
Like, literally.
Frick up. I don't want to use such bad language. Yes, we are under the explicit category now. Still doesn't give me an excuse to use the F word all the time. Although I could drop that for anything.
It does make you feel better sometimes.
Sure does. Sometimes that's the only word that can just...
get the point across.
Yeah. Any emotion you can put into the F word. You can even put the love emotion into the F word. Because I'm going to tell you, there's times where I felt pretty good during some Anyway, whoa. We're talking about something that is totally shouldn't be talked about. Wow, okay. Anyhow, so Mary Kelly, yeah, she was the youngest of the victim as well. I feel so bad for her. All of them, but her especially, now, we are going to get into the theories. I forgot, this was just a recap, so we'll get into all that. You're probably going to hear a lot of papers moving, only because if you're watching this, you can see all of our notes flying all over. Hi! Yeah, anyway, so then we also talked about the letters. We got into that. I'm not going to touch back into that this time, only because those are all pure speculation, and I did research them more, and again, found, even from us noticing, from looking at them, the spelling was all different. The handwriting was different. None of them line up.
Yeah.
So, most of them are discredited, even the boss letter. Excuse me, but that's the more prominent one that got put out there. Mm-hmm. And it is because he named himself in that. So whether it was him that named himself or somebody else that was trying to get attention, like that reporter.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But Jack the Ripper, like I said, it's either that or the Whitechapel murderer. He would have been long forgotten. But Jack the Ripper, I don't know, that just has a different ring to it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think that it stayed so long. And it's not solved. It's an unsolved murder. Which, there's a shit ton of unsolved murders, but this one's pretty gruesome. But anyhow, so, with that being said, we just recap Mary Ann Nichols, a.k.a. Polly, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Kelly. Those were the canonical 5. Now, there was others, depends on who you talk to. There are ripperologists,
Yes.
That's what they refer to themselves as. Now, they all kind of have different outlooks on it, but who doesn't? Because we all have opinions, because it's all pure speculation, because not one of us was back there to see it.
Yeah.
So there are others. The first one that they, depending on who you talk to, would have been his first victim. Martha Tabram. Like I said, it was debate over if she was the first Ripper victim or not. She was found August 8th of 1888. She was a seasoned streetwalker, so that's what she was known for.
She was salty then?
Probably. Funny fact, known for the quick sex acts, also known as 4-penny knee tremblers. Oh, there's my old face. Now, funny, I kind of giggled a little bit. I was like, why is something in a Jack the Ripper article making me giggle? Like,
yeah, but it's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. For sure is. John Reeves is the one that found her. He found her on the first floor landing of an apartment building. 39 stabs from her throat to her lower abdomen. 39!
Wow.
Yeah. But when they investigated further, coroner said that it was 2 different blades that were used.
Oh, interesting.
So, whether it's 2 different people, or maybe somebody that's a murder stumbled upon a different murders, whatever, or he had just 2 different knives going to town. Because now how they look at things, they could tell by a stab wound if you're right or left-handed, too. Well, even they claim that to know that stuff, that he was at least, one thing they knew that he was right-handed because the way he slit a throat. Supposed to say that maybe he's what's that called? Ambidextrous?
That's true. Yeah.
Or he's just, or just the way that he was, whatever, hand was free for, I don't think they can claim somebody being right or left-handed. I personally don't. To me, it comes down to how they're positioned when they cut somebody or whatever they're looking at, or even writing something down. Let's say you're in a weird-ass position, your other arm's broken, or whatever. And there's so many different, to me, angles to look at that.
Yeah.
Or if you're stabbing them from the back, coming around the front.
That's a lot of times to be stabbed.
Can you imagine the perpetrator, the perp, if you will, how tired he'd be? It goes back to the axe murder thing where you're picking up these axes and you're like...
Yeah, that's crazy.
39. That's absolutely insane. Then 2 different blades were used. Okay, so another one. Okay, so Martha was found August 8th, so she in 1888, so she would have been the top in the Mechanical 5. And then there was Alice Mackenzie. She was found July 17th, 1889 at 12:50. Again, her skirt was pulled up, blood all over her thighs and abdomen, and zigzag wounds from her breast to her navel area.
But she wasn't stabbed that many times?
It did not say. I didn't get a whole lot. I got some. I just tried to keep it a little basic, like I said, because this could be its own
thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's what I got on her. Again, that kind of goes with her skirt being pulled up. That could link it. Blood over thighs and abdomen. But where he was going, because if the wounds were from the breast to navel area, that's just north of where Jack the Ripper would normally go through, which would be the uterus area, the abdomen. So, and then there's Frances Cole. She was found February 13th, 1891 at 2:15 a.m. Police constable. I kept referring to the police, to the brigade. I think that's the fire brigade. In part 1, I kept thinking about that at nighttime. I was like, I think I totally referred to that wrong. So I want to recant that. It's constables is what they were. Police constables.
It sounded good to me. I thought it sounded good.
You want to know, brigade is where I get, oh my gosh, Willy Wonka, when she's like, call the fire brigade, because her fat little son fell in the chocolate fountain thing and got sucked up, and she's like, somebody call the fire brigade. Yeah, so then I'm like, oh, brigade, that's got to be from over there, because it's in Willy Wonka.
Well, if it's on TV, it's true.
I know, right? And if Johnny Depp's in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
The new one. I like it because it's dark. And he's funny. He's so funny.
Yes.
But he's like, he's got the perfect teeth. I love Johnny Depp. Yay, Johnny Depp.
Boop, boop.
Cheers to Johnny Depp. I barely gave you any. All that head that was in that glass.
You said head.
I did. Did you enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Talked about Alice Mackenzie. Another one. Frances Cole. Found February 13th, 1891, 2:15 a.m. Police Constable Ernest Thompson found her. Said he had passed her location 15 minutes prior, claimed that he saw nothing there 15 minutes prior to him finding her body. She was sliced ear, throat, ear. So ear to ear she was sliced, but not like this. Like this.
Oh.
And he claimed that he didn't see shit. Not shit.
Oh. How could you not?
Or hear something, or something. I don't... Okay, let's get this straight first of all. By this time, because that's 1891, still everybody's on alert. Even through the 5 Chronicle, everybody's on alert after that first one.
Mm-hmm.
Or, depending on who you're talking to, second one. Okay, but Marianne Nichols. By the time you get to her horrendous murder, you'd think everybody be like listening for shit, looking
waiting
at shit.
For it.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're spread out though.
What do you mean?
Well, the first
murders
one
themselves?
Yeah.
Yes, that's why the Chronicle 5 is named the Chronicle 5, because those are the closest in
together.
time. Yeah. But again, if you watch TV at all, you would know.
If you watch NCIS.
Yeah, and Criminal Minds. Some serial killers would go like back to back to back, but if they get what they're looking for, they can hold off for a while, go back to their normal lives, and then when they get that need again, kind of like they're addicted to it, where they get that feeling for it, and they need that, then they'll do it again. It's generally, I don't know. I'm not a serial killer. I don't think I know any. I don't know. We very well could. I don't know.
I hope not.
A scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's me. It's not me. It's not me. It's not me. It's not me.
Or is it?
Stay tuned next week. So anyway, she was got ear to ear, throat in the middle. So Thomas Sater was charged for that one. Thomas was her friend for 2 days before her murder. Okay, so they linked him back, blah, blah, he was staying with her, blah, blah, blah. But, long story short, he was able to prove that he was not with her during the time of her murder.
Oh, okay.
But they did charge him with it. But if I was Thomas, I would have been like, hey, constable, what in the hell? 15 minutes? Really? Because like I said before, it is said that they went in groups. Some of these aren't in groups. The stories that I'm getting. There's a lot of missing information there. Every 15 minutes doing their rounds, but never going alone. They got a constable that was alone.
That is kind of weird.
Just saying. Wonder if I can put like funny things in here. That'd be funny. So, also, your lady, Carrie Brown, a.k.a. OMG. They called her. She liked to recite.
I don't know. I have to look it up again.
No, we don't. It is Shakespeare.
The batshit crazy one.
Yes. She liked to recite Shakespeare when she was drunk. That's what she did. So,
she was classy.
Well, yeah. Yeah, she was a classy streetwalker. So, here we got Miss Carrie Brown drinking, doing her streetwalking thing, because she was a streetwalker in New York City. And she
talking about Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Well, Romeo, she's... So
can you do that one more time?
I cannot. A lot of my tricks are just one-time things.
One-time thing, yeah.
So she was found April 23rd, 24th, that night there, 1892, in the East River Motel in Manhattan, New York City. She was found mutilated, of course, strangled, like they were, and insides torn out.
Oh.
Yeah. Yuck, right? Connection with George Chapman. At the time of the murder, he was in the Jersey area. We're going to get into suspects, but first, it is wine time. So we're taking wine time break. I'm not for sure if you'll get fun music, or if you get a commercial, or...
Only time will tell.
Yeah. What else can we throw in there? Not our cool thing today, because that's kind of long, but we'll do that later. Anyway, you'll get some surprise!
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! we're back. Hello.
Holler.
Holler.
I was like a white girl. Holler.
Yeah, because we pronunciate everything. I cannot pronunciate not a damn thing. As you've noticed, if you've been following our podcast at all, I'm not good with words. I'm all over the place all the time.
That's all right. It's good.
It is good. It's fun. I don't know if it's good, but it's fun. So what are suspects? Do you know of any? I haven't let you talk at all.
No.
Such a hog.
I worked on more like on their theories.
Okay,
their ideas. Yep.
Okay. So you all right then if I go to the suspects then?
Go for it.
So we'll go over click through the suspects' names. We got George Chapman. Like I said, remember his name. Thomas Cutbush. Francis. Is that really Francis? Yeah, Dr. Francis Tumbling. James Maybrick. Walter Sickert. Charles Cross. Remember that name too. Montague DeWitt. And Aaron Kaminsky. No, Aaron Kaminsky. Okay, so George Chapman. Now, if we're talking back, we have, well, if you give me just a second here, because I just throw my notes when I'm done with them. What now? No. What? Okay. George Chapman. So, who else do we know with the last name Chapman? Annie. Victim number 2 of the Conoco murders. Blah, blah, blah. That's my scary music. So, with that being said, he was qualified actually as a junior surgeon. You remember, I believe we talked about that, how they thought, or speculation was that he had some kind of surgical or doctor knowledge of anatomy. But he was an assistant hairdresser in London.
That's kind of a weird fit.
Yeah. When he got married to Annie, he took Annie's last name.
Interesting.
Especially for way back then, right?
Yeah.
So he took Annie's name. Annie left him in 1894. So he had 2 wives before Annie, and he poisoned them. So he actually ended up being convicted and executed April 1st. What? George Chapman was convicted and executed April 1st. No, I keep saying that wrong. George Chapman was convicted and executed April 7th, 1903. I keep reading the L in April as first. Although this is going to be good. If we can put this out with all the weirdness that's in between, that might be good for us. I hope you guys enjoy, because this is what happens. And
You're welcome.
Is all the fun that we have.
You're welcome.
Again, we're having to use old trusty microphone here, which we love her. It looks like a her, right? Well, you guys can't really see either. But
so I broke the shit.
Not on purpose, she did.
Not on purpose.
Well, we got some awesome things coming up really for us. Let's not talk about us right now. We'll do that later. Because we actually have a lot of us for 2020. 2020 is going to be our year. I'm owning that shit.
It is.
I've decided we are going to own that shit. PXL, paranormalxl podcast, is going to run 2020. Not run for 2020.
No, we don't want none of that.
We got a lot of awesome things in store for 2020. With that being said, remind me, because I did not make ending notes for this one, because you came when I was trying to finish up notes, because I've been exhausted this week. Remind me. Please remind me at the end of this. Anyway, so we're only at George Chapman. Okay, then there's Thomas Cutbush. I'm sure there's an easier way to say that. I probably just murdered his name. No pun intended. No, all the pun intended.
It was.
It was so punny.
It was funny.
Punny. So, the Sun newspaper named him Jack the Ripper. But, again, that's the same newspaper that got all the letters.
Okay.
And they were the ones that were going to close down until they started getting the letters. See? Most of the theories. They named him that in 1894. He had a rumor of STD, but medical records show that he did not have an STD. See, that was a theory, that he had an STD that he got from a streetwalker and then took it out on the streetwalkers. But he was admitted in
I can make sure you put that.
And he was admitted into an insane asylum.
All right.
Okay, So they went back to those records. That states nowhere in his death record anything that he had an STD. That was a theory. That was a rumor from none other than the Sun newspaper.
Would that be called fake news?
Fake news, yes. Mm-hmm. It is fake news. Da-da-da. So clearly, they also put that he was not suicidal, but he was a danger to other people. So he did clearly have issues if he was in an insane asylum.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But there's also, there's so much more. I did a shit ton of research. I do actually have all this up here. I'm trying to not put it into words because, like I said, we will be here all day if I do that.
Mm-hmm.
We are a paranormal podcast. I love touching on the true crime. This is why I chose not to do a true crime podcast, because it would consume my whole life.
Yeah, it would.
It's absolutely insane. Even just this one case. It's one case, but a million quadrillion
possibilities. Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. So then there's what? Didn't I already talk about Dr. Francis?
I don't think so.
Because wasn't I like, oh, Francis? What in the shiz?
Net.
Yeah, net. Shiz, net. So okay, then there's Dr. Francis Tumsley. We're just gonna say Dr. Francis. He was charged with gross indecency with men, actually, in November 7th, 1888.
So he liked pickle parks?
Yes, he liked pickle parks. Like the one on 66?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're from our area, you don't know what 66 is, but we know what 66 is. Aha!
Route 66. Get your kicks.
Get your kicks at Route 66 at the pickle park.
Okay.
Anyway. He, after that, went to New York City. He would take guests and show them jars of uteruses that he had taken.
Oh.
Yeah. See, you gotta link that back up to JTR.
That's
with
creepy.
The uteruses. He had the uteruses that he put in, I'm assuming, mason jars, probably, and he would show people these. That weird?
That is weird.
It's a weird connection. Super weird connection. Yeah. Inspector Littlechild he was the one that claimed that he had to be Jack the Ripper. But a lot of his stuff kind of fell apart. You'd have to look, do your own research, but do your own research. When it comes to that, again, there's so much more that goes into that, but I don't want to get into it because, well, we'd be here all day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, Inspector Littlechild really liked Dr. Francis as far as being Jack the Ripper. He tried to say that he was it because of, like I said, showing these people.
That's kind of like a big thing. That's
a huge thing.
Yeah.
He was clearly sick in the head. But could you imagine being a doctor and seeing people's insides all the time?
Yeah.
I'm not doubting doctors, but I think it takes a very, very, not only super smart person to be a doctor, but it also takes a very, very mentally strong person to be a great doctor, to
to deal with the blood and to be able to cut
a human open.
Yeah.
Because that alone, we get the knees even when I get paper cuts consistently at work. Okay, and I'm like, oh my god, it's bleeding. And, I don't do well. My knees get weak. My knees get weak. Mama Mary's actually laughing, but I cackle so it comes out more than what she's laughing.
My wheeze getting neat.
You make my wheeze neat. Let me tell that to Sean. Anyhow, then, back to business. Where were we? Oh, the doctor. The knees and weak. Knees weak.
Talking about how it takes a strong person to be able to cut.
It does. But could you imagine, let's say he had nothing else going on in his life, and that was his life.
Yeah.
Then you take another step into it, and he's like, oh man, he becomes obsessed. Okay, I can see a man, and vice versa, you're going to become obsessed with something that's not you, because if it's you, then you know what it is. Okay, what I mean by that is, okay, the uterus, or the insides of a man. There's a difference there. So a man, I think, if not in the right mindset, can easily become obsessed or intrigued with a woman's insides.
I can see it, yeah.
You know, that's not who I am. That's not what's making me tick. But I want to know, if we're both humans, what is making you tick then?
Makes sense.
You know? So, I don't know. I think it'd be easy for a doctor, especially back then, to go insane. And I do this a lot. Look at all these strawberries we're getting in our glasses. I think it's time for another wine time.
It could be. It's
wine time! Oh, and we're back! Oh.
Ta-da!
This is why I don't have my own TV show. Nobody would know what to follow. So, okay, we just got done talking about Dr. Francis, and, he liked to show off his collection of uteruses in his little jars. So we got James Maybrook, okay? He died May of 1889. So with that being said, the last killing to be associated, I'm not talking about the Chronicle 5, that's all in with it, but all of the victims, the last one was in 1891. So, I don't know, kind of iffy with the date there, but he was charged with poisoning his wife too. That happens back then. A lot of
poisonings.
Okay, so in I'm correct with this. With 1992, there was a diary that was brought to light.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yes. Yeah. And it was said that it belonged to James Maybrook.
It was the ancestor, right, that brought it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. Okay, so he said he got this is who it is. He doesn't really say that he did it, but he does refer back to, like, some of the killings and stuff. Now, with that being said, some of the entrances, that's not what I meant to say, but some of the writings in there, in the diary, he did talk about some of the murders, but they were a little off.
Uh-huh.
But with that being said, if he was mentally ill, because it would take a mentally ill person to do these
I think
things.
so, yeah.
So he may have thought another thing as he's writing these down.
That's true.
You know, he may have seen it a different way because...
Oh, his perception could have been different.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Even with, okay, let's say what we did earlier. You could have easily perceived it different than I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we saw things from a different angle. He may have seen different things. So as he's writing these down, he thought that he did this because he clearly wasn't in his right mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was kind of my theory when I thought back on... Because even with these... Okay, we can talk about theories now because we're bringing up the suspects that they brought because it was theories. They were leading on theories and getting these people in and talking to them. So that diary was brought up. So then it came, the guy that said that he had these diaries, he said that he wrote them. Okay. So then they took it back. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. My notes are sloppy because I didn't get them all typed out. I got lines everywhere in here. But if I remember correctly, please don't murder me if I don't have it correctly.
Don't take her uterus.
No, take it. Take it. I'm done with it. I've used it. I got two wonderful children. I'm good. Yeah, take it out. Oh my God, we are sick. We are sick individuals. So the diary found, he said that he had wrote it. It was all a lie, and then he recanted that. Okay, but then it was traced back to being... I need a tissue. All that crying earlier. Anyway, so... But the diary got traced back to being in his wife's side of the family.
Huh.
From her ancestors and stuff. They had passed it on. So, again, it comes down to... You know, the things that we are able to do scientifically now, like going back, okay, how old is this ink? How, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing. Like I said, everything in this case is speculation, besides the actual pictures that they have. But the only actual picture of a murder scene, is the Kelly murder. The rest of them are just, they are pictures from a coroner, you know, after they clean them up in the mortuary. That's what they did back then.
Mm-hmm.
Weird now to think about. But anyway, so moving on from him. So, I mean, that was a fairly new finding.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is it's went on for over 100 years, and people are still coming forth with things. And now we have the ability to do the DNA and to do everything.
Yeah, to get it all figured out.
To it, yeah. So we had Walter Sickert. They say one of the theories with him is he was an accomplice, which I don't think is too far-fetched, especially for these 15-minute increments. Yeah. So with Walter, like I said, he was an accomplice, or that's one of the theories. Author Patricia Cornwell insists it was him. Now, with that, she has been decredited, maybe is the word I want to say, on some of her theories. Because, again, like when we go into, let's say, paranormal stuff, and we get into the beliefs of things, we stop at a certain location. Not me. People in general will stop at a certain thing because they got the answer that
they were looking for in general.
Right.
Yeah.
But with the answers, there's always more to those answers, so that then they stop. And I believe that's what she did. Now, his past, Walter's past, he what she said is MO was he had a painful surgery as a child, and it had to do with his penis.
Man parts.
Yeah, man parts, which made him impotent, which made him angry towards men, or not men, but women. Maybe men, I don't know. Whatever, hey man, to each their own. But she had said that's why he hated women, because he was impotent. But again, that doesn't go back. Like, it wasn't a woman that did it. Back then, it was surgeons were men. It was a man's world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's
the way it was.
Yeah, that's just fact. But when you go back and look at the place that he was supposed to have his surgery, they dealt with anal things, not wieners. So to go with that theory, it's a little far-fetched, depending on whose eyes you're looking through or whoever ears you're listening through. It's, they didn't deal with wieners, so then he didn't get that surgery. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, the story isn't lining up. But she was very gung-ho for him. Then there's Charles Cross, okay? Charles Cross was also Charles Allen Lechmer. I'm probably murdering that last name too. He used his stepdad's name when he found Mary Nichols. So Charles Cross, he found Mary Nichols. Now when he was asked who he was, he used Cross as the last name.
Huh.
His actual last name is Lechmer. That's his real dad's name, not his stepdad.
Interesting.
Yes. His stepdad was a police constable, Thomas Cross. Let's see. Now, the thing with Charles Cross is all these killings happened between his home and work.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm. But besides Elizabeth Stride, where she was found was between Charles's home and his mother's home.
Interesting.
It certainly is. I'm like, it certainly is. There's so much more with that one. So with Charles Cross, another theory is, now he's the one that, was like, hey, there's another person walking down here. Hey, come look at what I found. Now there's speculation that he murdered her and he got interrupted by that other person walking to work and was like, hey, come over here. Come look at what I found.
The sidetrack?
Yeah. Because again, during that time, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. When I picture that time era in London, I picture rainy, dark. No, we already knew it was dark. Middle of the night, it's dark. They didn't have lighting in the east side, or east town.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it was. So if you wear anything dark, it's going to soak in. You're not going to see it because it's dark. And probably rainy, dreary, whatever. I don't know. But it's dark. You're not going to be able to see it right off. Because when these women are found, it's generally going to be dark outside. It's middle of the night or early in the morning. Again, look into that one. That one is really makes you think.
Yeah, it doesn't completely come together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not how it should.
Mm-mm.
Like I said, that's why that one got a lot of speculation because of how he was there, nobody else was there, the police presence and stuff like that. All with it, like there's a whole long story that goes with that one. So then we got Montague DeWitt. His body was actually found December 31st, 1888. It was found floating in a river. He again was questioned and stuff like that. He was also mentally ill. Clearly he committed suicide, but he was one that they looked into as well. There is more on him too. I just figured, I don't know what I figured. I kind of think they're all kind of linked. They might not be the same person, but they could also possibly be linked to a group of people.
Maybe.
Or two people. More than one person it can be linked to. So the time era of him dying and then finding him. And then there's Aaron Kaminsky. He was insane. And he absolutely hated women. And streetwalkers especially. He had homicidal tendencies, which I'm not for sure what that exactly means back then, how they would know that. Whether him just not being in the norm or being accepted. Maybe he wasn't an alcoholic and he didn't buy streetwalkers. Maybe that's what made him insane or a lunatic.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
You never know.
Because that seemed to be the norm back then.
Yeah.
Let's see. He moved to a lunatic asylum. They didn't call it a sane asylum. They called it a lunatic asylum in March 1889. He died in 1919 in Levingston Asylum. Now, Chief Inspector... I'm not even sure that's a word that I wrote down. Now, Chief Inspector Donald Swanson, he was like the lead investigator on the Ripper case. So he had everything that was going on. And very few others had comprehensive knowledge of what he knew of the Ripper, that they couldn't wrap their head around it, or his theories that he was coming up with to find the Ripper and stuff. Like, people just couldn't fathom.
That being a possibility.
Yeah. So Swanson, yeah, I must have just stopped writing at that point. I'm not really for sure why. Maybe it's when you walked in the door. I don't know. I'm trying to remember back, because a lot of this, I just wrote down key words thinking I was going to remember, and I know better, but...
It's all in there somewhere.
But so for, I want to say main suspects, we have George Chapman, Thomas Cutbush, Dr. Francis, James Maybrook. Going back to James Maybrook and the diary, there's a part in the diary that, what do they call that? Not an opening, maybe an opening in the diary. It says, I give my name that all know of me, so history do tell what love can do to a gentleman born. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
So we have James Maybrook, Walter Secret, Charles Cross, Montague DeWitt, and Aaron Kaminsky as like the main ones. Now there's over 170 suspects. Even now they're still coming up.
They keep compiling them.
Yeah. Those were the I don't want to say basic because there's nothing basic about this case. But
main ones.
It's all speculation.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, you go.
Well, one of the most interesting theories that I found, Lewis Carroll. Okay, he wrote Alice in Wonderland. Well, there is a gentleman, Richard Wallace. He wrote Jack the Ripper, Lighthearted Friend. He seemed to think that it was Lewis Carroll, and in his books, he left hints as to how he did it.
Okay.
And so there's like a nursery Alice, the version of Alice in Wonderland, but for kids, back then. And so the story goes, so she wandered away through the wood carrying the ugly little thing with her. And a great job it was to keep a hold of it. It wriggled about so. But at last she found out that the proper way was to keep tight hold of itself, foot and its right ear. And then she wriggled about so. But as the last Dodgson and Bain found a way to keep a hold of the fat little whore, I got a tight hold of her and slit her throat, left ear to ear. It was tough, wet, disgusting too, so weary of it, they threw it up. Jack the Ripper. So basically, he combines that story and what Jack the Ripper wrote. It says there's connections. So that was his theory, was that this author was Jack the Ripper and that he would write these stories leaving clues.
Well, that's just stupid. I love that story.
Isn't that weird?
No. I don't like it. Throw it out.
And then...
that is weird.
Then there's another theory, Mary Jane Kelly. Mm-hmm. She's the last victim. Yeah. But there's one person that claims that the 4 murders before her was just like an elaborate ruse to cover up her murder. They say that she was killed by her husband, Dr. Weston Davis, and that he had been planning to kill her. So he killed the first 4 women first so that when he killed her, he wouldn't get in trouble for it. So nobody would suspect him. And that's crazy too. Okay, so you're just going to go out and kill people to cover...
Yeah, I think that's silly.
That's a lot of work.
Why risk getting caught? Because you could have easily got caught.
Yeah. Then, well, and then they talk about the James Maybrick in his journal. Oh. Oh, okay.
I'm going to go potty. It's going to be Mama Mary on the mic. Because...
All in.
That's what he said. We need to stop that.
But James Maybrick, they said that he had maybe even committed murders over in the United States because he was a cotton merchant, so he would travel back and forth. And so they have theories that he was also over in Chicago as a serial killer. And that's where that journal, I believe, came from, was from his, down the line relative of Jeff Mudgett. There's another story where of Mary Jane Kelly and somebody who was a witness said that they witnessed something different, where they came up with a theory that it was a female serial killer, that it was Jill the Ripper versus Jack the Ripper, because they claimed to have seen Kelly around 8:30 on Friday, November 8th. The only problem was the coroner said that Kelly had died around 4 a.m. that day. So there was a witness that said that she saw a woman that was wearing Kelly's clothing hours after she was murdered. The lead investigator on the case wondered if perhaps the killer was a woman who had stolen and wore her clothing as a disguise. It was, from this point on, for a little bit, it was posted that if Jack the Ripper were actually Jill the Ripper, she would have to be a midwife because of surgical precision with many of the victims, especially with the organs that were removed. So this led to like a nickname called the Mad Midwife. One of my favorites, though, is the theory that it was like a royal conspiracy theory. There's a lot that they claim that Prince Albert, grandson of Queen Victoria, was actually had married and had a child with a prostitute named Annie Elizabeth Crook, and then that he was the actual killer. That there's a big conspiracy theory that kind of warps around this, and they even say that really it ties into the fact that maybe, just maybe, it was Hitler, and that he was connected to the royal family, and that he was the Ripper. There's so many different theories and ideas that it's like almost you could make up any kind of story, and it would be real, and people would take it and run it. It's just so many different ideas. So many different ideas. Holy shit.
Oh, man.
Well, they even say it could be connected to like an occult thing where it was a whole group of people that were just going out there to murder women. But I do have to say, my favorite is that the fact that they connect the royal family, and that they say that it was Hitler. Like, when I read that, I was like, what?
Well, so then you get the theories that it's Hitler, and then you got the theories that it's a Jewish man.
Yeah, so which one? Like, which one balances out?
Yeah, exactly.
That Prince Albert was actually Hitler. Yeah.
People are...
They just take a story and run with it.
I love people. It's like playing telephone in school, though. It's
that's true.
One of those things that things just kind of get added on as it goes down the line. Now, what do you think? Okay, let's act like we didn't read any of these crazy-ass theories that they got or whatever. And clearly, we don't know. We wouldn't know these names unless we didn't do our research. So let's pretend like we didn't know anything but about the murders. What would you say? Man,
I don't know.
Woman,
I don't know. Because, like, there's a part of me that would almost wonder if maybe there was a crazy woman out there who was a midwife, and, maybe these women were pregnant, and she was, I don't know, maybe she would convince them that she could help them have an abortion, and...
No, there's an abortionist theory, what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look too much into it. I have a thing with that. I'm not... Oh, I can't say those things on here. My thoughts on that I keep to myself. I don't even like saying the A word. But I'm not anti either. Okay, here we go. I get hate mail, I'm pro-choice because every situation is different.
Yes, that's true.
Way different. There's medical reasons, there's personal reasons, there's emotional reasons, there's medical reasons. People have to get that done, to each their own.
Mm-hmm. But I wonder if like it was something like that but the woman was sadistic in it.
Okay.
Or or it could just be a guy that had issues with his mom, or with a wife who cheated on him and had a baby from another woman.
Stone.
You can. It's all right.
I like the black stones.
And then, decided to punish women by taking their uteruses.
I'm gonna take. You better shut up. I'm gonna take your uterus.
Uterus.
Your uterus. Even do it. Your uterus. I have a couple theories.
Okay.
If I can remember them correctly. We're gonna find out. So one is my first one when I started researching all this stuff. Now I'm like I said, I could totally do a podcast strictly on Jack the Ripper easily.
Uh-huh.
So with that being said, my first theory was it's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I listen to say, well, it can't be a woman because she can't. Blah, blah. Don't ever say a woman can't do shit, because there's some strong ass women.
There's some batshit crazy women out there. You get pissed off enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just show it more, so our craziness side more than men do.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that there wasn't heftier women back then. Don't tell me there wasn't taller women back then that can't take these 5-foot women out.
Yeah, really.
The tallest one was 5'5", okay? That's only 3 inches taller than me. And I'm one of the shortest people I know, and I know some short people.
Hell, maybe it's like a cartel thing. Like she was like the house mom, and they weren't doing what she was supposed to do, so she took their uterus.
I didn't think about that. New one.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was a madam.
There you go.
Taking these women out, because the madams, they had whorehouses. They had...
Instead of a pimp, it was a pimpette.
Yeah. It was a brothel.
Yep.
Leader. Lack of words, because I've had champagne, because we're celebrating nothing. You know what? No, we are celebrating.
Yeah, we are.
We celebrate every day, because we woke up.
That's right.
You and Angie.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so, yeah, good theory.
Mm. Yep.
Maybe it was a group of women. Who says it has to be a group of men? Like, they got wieners? What? Nothing against those listeners that have wieners. Rock on.
They got
I
pickle
love
parts.
the wiener. But, come on. When it comes to strength, I'm stronger than some men I know. And I don't hold that against them.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
You know, it's all this stereotypical shit that got put into our brains. But I easily think it could be a man. Or, excuse me, easily think it could be a woman. Woman.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, whoa, man. Which also stands for Wonder
Woman.
Okay, now I'm just stretching for things. I think today, Junior. I think that it easily could have been a man and a woman. I think it could have been a sick in the head couple.
Maybe.
Let's say that they lost a bunch of babies. They were trying to figure out why. They wanted to know why. Let's say it was an early medical student needing to learn something, or they failed that part of anatomy. Who knows? Oh, God, there's so much.
Yeah, there's so many different things.
But I do think there's a woman involved somewhere.
I feel like there was.
Besides being a victim.
I feel like there was.
People are like, duh, there's women involved. It was all women that got... That's not
Stupid.
what I mean. What I mean, I believe there's a woman involved somewhere along the line of suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she be the one that do it, or maybe the mastermind. Or, okay, so they were suffocated or strangled first. Mm-hmm. I think that's an easy way out, because what they were looking for was the uterus, or her insides, let's say. Maybe it wasn't even just the uterus. They always took the uterus, but maybe they were trying to figure out what was connected to the uterus. What was, it was the woman's insides. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, clearly the people were sick, but it easily could have been a woman. And I get mad at the fact that people just discredit it mm-hmm. because I think they weren't strong enough. Now, these women were small. Let's just say it wasn't a larger woman.
That's true.
Or women.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a disgruntled wife.
Well, that's another
that
theory.
Couldn't carry.
That with Mary Kelly when we were talking about that I think it was, let me find it. Let me scroll back down to it. But they talked about how he had, the secret. He had the relationship with the prostitute, and then he went and got remarried.
Right.
And then that's when some of those murders happen. Where they think it comes from a woman, a jealous thing.
Like
the
one thing I didn't realize until researching is that divorce was a big thing back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you always hear people saying divorce rates, blah, blah, blah. That's all you hear about back then.
Oh, yeah.
Is divorce. You know, or people murdering their spouses. It was crazy time back then.
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy now, but when you look at the dark side of it, of back then, because, you know, media and stuff only wants you to know the light side of things, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go either way with that. I guess it depends on what the topic is. But when it comes to lifestyles, it wasn't the wife at home taking care of the kids and the men at work. Well, especially in London, it was every person for themselves. If you had kids, great. If you could make your marriage work, great. But it probably wasn't going to be because everybody was sleeping with everybody.
Kinda. Yeah.
I mean, because the ratio to people that weren't streetwalkers to people that were streetwalkers is insane compared to, like, I think what it is now. I guess I don't know. I'm not a street.
Well,
I think they're pretty discreet now.
In 2014, they claimed to have real DNA evidence from a shawl that kind of names the person now. It was never logged in the evidence books, though.
It does. But with that being said, the type of DNA testing they can do now versus, like, back then, with evidence that old, it ranks in, like, up. It can rank up into 10% of our population right now. Because they can't do, let's say a murder happened yesterday. And they ran the DNA. Everything's fresh, everything's been left. We can get it right down to the person. See, back then, if you're taking DNA from back then and trying to do with what we got now, because I looked into that, it's up to 10% of the people that it could be. So there's still too big of range to nail it down to one person, even with DNA. I don't know why I know that information, but I know that, and I've...
But it's fascinating because, you know, they connected it with an Aaron Kaminsky, that Polish immigrant, the one, and I think he had paranoid schizophrenia.
Yes, he went into the lunatic asylum and he hated women, streetwalkers, and they said that he had homicidal tendencies.
So that's kind of fascinating that they connected that.
10%, yes. That's actually why I looked into that, because it stated that. The whole thing's just crazy. Of what imagine all the evidence. If we had all the evidence still, we could easily name somebody. But again, that comes back to why'd they have Kaminsky's DNA to compare it to?
Exactly. How did they get it? But I think what they say is it was his blood on her shawl.
But how do they know it was his blood? Did they have a sample of his blood before?
I don't know. I think they ran.
That's shit that we do now for
unless you do like
reasons, but
the genetic DNA maybe, where
even
family members or descendants.
Exactly. See, it could open up a whole line. Let's say he had a brother and it was his brother, and not him. Yeah.
Well, just like the story with 23andMe, because they initially do that, where my aunt's long lost son contacted my mom because the DNA thing said my mom was his mom, and that it was a big funny story. My brother's he was sure that like maybe my dad had an affair, or my mom had an affair, it just ended up being that
it was linked.
My aunt, when she was very young, had a baby, and they gave the baby up for adoption.
That wasn't uncommon.
And he, looked for his mom, but when he did the 23andMe, my brother had done it also, and it showed them as brothers versus. So he was sure that either my dad had or my mom. She's like, trust me, no.
I would not. But
I would have loved to be part of that conversation.
Aunt did come forward and say, "I'm."
Well, they eventually figured it out. They always knew that she did, and that she had given a baby up for adoption. But
are they connected now?
Yes. Yep. That's how it all came apart. And my mom felt bad because he had sent her Christmas cards, but she ignored them because she didn't know who they were.
Oh.
So.
But that's his aunt.
Yeah. Yep.
Aww.
He's a pretty cool guy. And he was funny because the first time I met him, he's like, well, we have a similar friend on Facebook. And I almost messaged you through Facebook. And one day I was in Hastings and I was just going to stop. I'm like, you should have.
Yeah.
It's one of my psychic friends.
Okay.
And I'm like, and so he looks at me. I'm like, okay, you're one of those. I gotcha. He obviously goes to her for readings if it's his friend, because she told him, well, I really don't know her like that, like a friend.
So he's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
That links up. See that what's weird is that I got cousins that are actually my second cousins. One actually just moved back up here. They're from North Carolina. And we just got together on Facebook because of paranormalxl. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe a family member. And I'm like, yeah, how cool is that? I just thought that was, you know, and that now we're like super close. And they're my mom's first cousins, but I think they're more toward my age. But, or
our age.
Our age.
All right.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think that's neat. Because they always said, because they knew of me, but I'm like a distant relative.
Yeah.
Like, they're like super into the spiritual shit. Like,
into it.
Yeah, the spiritual and like the ghost hunting. I kind of separate the two for myself just because, I don't know, I just do. But they're into like the spiritual side. Well, they like it together. But to know that there's somebody in the family that does that
that's
stuff
interested in it too.
Yeah. And they were just like, oh my God. And I'm like, I know, right? I just thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, sorry about your story.
No,
that's really cool that you got a long-lost cousin.
But it just, well, yeah, well, it just goes back to how, you know, just because you have that DNA thing doesn't necessarily mean it's completely accurate.
Exactly. As I said, what I looked into is it opened up to 10% of people that it could have been. Mm-hmm. Just because of, they can't, clearly that DNA they got from 1888 isn't going to be up to par.
Yeah.
You know, some of the things they're looking for in that are going to be dead, essentially, in blood. I guess, I don't know how DNA works, but I can see it losing some of its
potency.
Yeah, its potency, its factors over 100 years. That would just make sense. But yeah, the amount of theories that can go into this is
flabbergasting.
There's no limit. It could have been different people. Each one could have been somebody just passing through. Mm-hmm. Read about it, passed through, did some shit, and moved on to the next one. Like, I don't know. I think it was either two women, or a man and a woman.
Yeah, I go with the man and the woman.
I believe there was a woman involved. And I say that just because of the greatness of importance of the uterus. Mm-hmm. Whether they may have lost a child. Okay, let's say it ended up being a couple. Let's say they lost a child. And they wanted to know why. But they didn't understand how the insides work. Yeah. So they just ripped them open and they needed to know. You know, when you lose a child, it makes you do some pretty weird shit. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna move on from that. Mm-hmm. The whole thing's just absolutely crazy. As far as it just being a man and hating women and then taking their uterus, I think there was more to it. So was a man involved? Easily. Do I think it was just a man? No.
Yeah, I agree.
A woman played some part in it. She may have not got her hands dirty. Maybe it was a hired hand, and that's why some of the things were so sloppy.
Maybe.
And some of them were kind of different. Essentially, it got to the uterus or the insides, but how they did it sometimes was different. They, you know, because they did lay the insides on a few of them over the shoulders and stuff like that. Maybe that was just to set it out of the way, but there also could have been some kind of significance to that. We'll never, ever, ever, ever know.
That's true.
That's the thing. And I don't care how many DNA tests you run, whatever. Yeah, the bottom line is that they were murdered. Mm-hmm. We will never know why. What the M.O. of the murderer or murderers were.
It's fascinating, though.
All the what ifs. Like, there's just millions of what ifs.
Too many.
Yeah. So with that being said, because we could, like I said, keep going and going very easily and get into each of these people. And there are over 100 more suspects, you know, that we could go through. But we're not going to. Because we are not a true crime podcast, although I enjoy what we've been doing here. Now, do you know of any hauntings that were connected to this?
I know there were several different ones. I think of like Mary Kelly and the areas. Basically, anything I researched was the area where they were found. They say that they're, you know, there's a lot of activity there.
You see, that's why I wonder if they ever taken a medium psychic in there to try to find out who did it.
I bet they did. I bet they've had their little seances and things like that where they try to draw forth the energy.
But what that means, I guess they can't fully come out and claim something because there is no physical evidence.
Yeah, there's no real proof.
It's circumstantial stuff. That kind of sucks sometimes. Sometimes all you have is the circumstantial, and that's just
the hearsay.
That's just it.
Yeah,
and it could be very well be the truth. Now, with that being said, so I hope we didn't get any information wrong because I am burnt out on Jack the Ripper with stuff. I needed to know. There's a lot more up in here in my brain that I did not need. I could have went the rest of my life without knowing and seeing, but I got it, and I'm not going to say it on the podcast just because that's not what we do. I want to keep to the lighter thing of things. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed Jack the Ripper. And if you guys have anything to add, email us in, paranormalxl@writeme.com. Even if you guys got some theories on there, I'd like to hear your theories if they are different than ours. Clearly, we're pro-women because that's what we are. Not pro-women serial killers, though.
No.
That, I don't know. A woman was, I just get that so, that a woman was definitely involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, with that being said, that's enough of Jack the Ripper. So, it is November now, which is coming to the end of the year. But in 2020, we got some pretty awesome things coming up. I know, and again, I repeat this so many times. Again, we will start putting videos of us recording out. Which, okay, here's a question for y'all. It's, why would you rather watch somebody record than just listen to them record? I don't understand that, but that seems to be the end thing. So that's why, we're recording, because I don't understand that. I personally like to put in podcasts, put my earphones in, and whether I'm cleaning the house, I'm at work, I'm multitasking. So if you guys can give us some feedback on that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I understand, wanting to watch things, but I don't know why wanting to watch somebody talk. I don't understand that. But I'm not judging you by any means. Keep listening, keep watching, whatever you're doing. I think that's phenomenal. But I want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm a question asker. But anyway, so in 2020, as far as the investigation part of Paranormal XL, we're taking a break until the beginning of the year. I'm in the process of scheduling things, making things happen. We're gonna, oh man, Mama Mary and I are super busy getting shit rolling. It's gonna be great. 2020, I think, is gonna be our year.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be able to help so many people. It's just gonna be great.
Yeah.
That's my biggest reasoning in wanting to do this, is being able to help people answer questions. As simple as answering a question, at most being able to help people wherever it's needed.
Yeah, to get that.
And everything in between. Again, please email us, paranormalxl@writeme.com. We do have a website, paranormalxl.com. Go check it out. I'm going to go hold Josh, see if he can put some pictures from the past event that we just did up there. Also, Facebook, Paranormal XL, or at Paranormal XL. Anything you want to add?
No, we're good.
Besides, remember, don't be a streetwalker. Not helpful.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't. Let's not.
Yeah. No.
Don't yuck someone else's yum.
Ever.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
This